This is Soccer 101 with Moon and Rocchio.
All right, welcome back to Soccer 101. I'm Moon, and that is Rocchio. We have a bunch on the show today. We'll get to some Leagues Cup stuff, to some controversy. I'd like to read an email from one of the supporter groups, just to kind of straighten and clarify things a little bit, not only for me, but for everybody around town, especially since there has been some controversy with a boycott over the Leagues Cup. So, Rocchio, what else do we have on the schedule today?
Well, we're going to have to talk about a Leagues Cup win as well, because St. Louis City did get a Leagues Cup win, and we've gotten some more news in the Leagues Cup because the other games in the group were being played last night, and an FC Juarez win means that St. Louis City is already moving on from the group stage of the Leagues Cup into the round of 32. Still up in the air exactly what day their round of 32 game will be, but it's looking like, based on all the stipulations in the Cup, it'll look like it'll be a home game. Based on Tom Timmerman from STL Today's reporting, technically it could be the 7th, 8th, or 9th of August, but he's reporting that it's most likely looking like it's going to be the 8th or 9th of August. So a little bit of news already in the Leagues Cup, and of course, we're going to have to break down that 2-1 game. Again, if you don't want to listen because of the boycott, I completely understand, but at the same time, the debuts of Simon Becher and Marcel Hartel, the first ever goal for Cedric Toyshirt in a St. Louis City kit. And so there's a lot of things to talk about from that game, despite some of the other controversy, but we're not going to ignore the controversy. We're going to open up with it. Thank you very much, Moon.
Yeah, and you know what? I would assume that the controversy that goes into a boycott would be boycotting the games, which obviously it is. But you don't have to boycott our show for crying out loud.
No, but I'm saying
don't do that.
There's some people I think who might
we
not
didn't do nothing.
There's some people who might not be happy with us covering the Leagues Cup in the same way, because I know that there's some other podcasts around town that are changing their format for the next month or so. We're not going to do that, mainly because for me personally, all I care about is what happens, or not all I care about. The overwhelming majority of what I care about is what happens between the white lines. And we just got 3 new players, and I want to see how they work. 4 new players. Jake Girdwood-Reich obviously is also in the mix, and he's been getting more time as well. We got 3 new attackers that all showed out in that game. And that matters when the MLS comes back. And so I'm fully supportive of the boycott, 100%. Do what you got to do. Show the league that making money grabs and ignoring the Open Cup's a dumb idea. Show them that it's ignorant that they criticize the broadcasting numbers around the U.S. Open Cup when they were the ones who had control, or at least partial control, of the broadcasting of the U.S. Open Cup for a number of years and didn't do anything to really support it. So there's a lot of good reasons to boycott it. But again, I understand people why they're doing it. But we're still going to talk about what happened, because it's material to the rest of St. Louis City's season, undoubtedly.
Yeah, I understand the direct boycott, and I support it as well. I'm exactly with you, Rocchio, but we're not going to change our format, because our format has nothing to do with the Leagues Cup. We're not here to talk about or support the Leagues Cup in any way.
City played a game. We're going to talk about it.
We are here to cover the team, and like you said, new players on the field for the first time in this Leagues Cup match. It doesn't matter what kind of match. We want to talk about the team. We want to talk about what's going on. Now, before we jump into that, and I will read an email that is akin to all this. Let's just get a little bit of news out of there. Southern Illinois University, Edwardsville, and St. Louis University men's and women's soccer will face off in the NCAA Division I soccer doubleheader on Sunday, September 8th at St. Louis City SC's Major League Soccer Stadium, City Park. So that's very cool. Set to host one of the country's most storied collegiate soccer rivalries for the second consecutive year. Again, Sunday, September 8th, it's going to be SIUE and St. Louis University competing in a historic bronze boot match. So, that's regional pride. That's bragging rights. Just wanted to make mention of that and get that out there. But, Rocc, I want to start the episode really with this email, and this comes over from a listener of the Rizzuto Show, Andrew, because I was covering, just the basic scores and highlights and things in the sports segment on the Rizzuto Show, and I made mention of the St. Louligans who were mentioned in the article that I was referencing. And he said, Andrew writes, listen, Moon, as one of the few media members that understands soccer and the supporter groups and the culture, can you please help to quit calling the supporters Louligans? Just, all the supporter groups being lumped in as Louligans. The St. Louligans are a small faction of the overall supporter groups in the north end of the stadium, probably making up maybe 15 to 20%. Other groups, such as St. Louis City Punks, Riot Girls, Santos, and Fleur de Noise, make up probably the rest of the 75 to 80 of the actual percent of supporter sections and don't identify identify as Luligans. He goes on to say some personal things, and I won't share that, but then it was, most of the latest big, gorgeous TIFOs or fan-involved demonstrations have actually been made by the Punks or the Riot Girls or Santos, Sea Godzilla, Wicked Witch, anything Spanish, Latino, Pride, etc. But the continuous Luligans moniker keeps getting the credit. From now on, if you think of it, please just call the supporter groups. No one can agree on a better name. Also, here are the Santos and Punk's web pages for more info. So there, every supporter group has its own website, has its own style, has its own thing, and it is fair to make mention that most of the media just kind of lumps it all in with, the previous supporter groups that were kind of a bit more out front, if you will, when it came to St. Louis FC. So yeah, my apologies if I've perpetuated such a confusion, and I just wanted to get that out of the way for maybe any new listeners or people that joined us to kind of get into soccer from this Soccer 101 podcast. That yeah, there are a multitude of factions as far as supporter groups go.
They grabbed such a good name early. You gotta give a little bit of credit to them because damn, it is a good name. But yeah, it's not a catch-all, and that is important. And the support groups are all very different groups of people, and so I respect that. I think it's one of the fun things about soccer is the supporters groups and how different they really are from each other in all little ways.
Yeah, and each of them have been inviting and inclusive to me and our show and some of my compatriots in different ways to different extents. But I will say, I stay as far out of this as possible because within 1.5 short seasons, these groups have had some major drama, and there's some political crap that gets going, and you know what, I love the passion, I love the fury, but I stay as far from it as possible. There are Facebook groups that trash everybody and everything, and listen here, man, I'm just here to trash whatever I'm trashing and build up whatever I'm building up, and just try to stay a passionate fan that enjoys the game, enjoys supporting this town, enjoys supporting the business in this town, and hopefully one another. So I just do it here, and then I check out because I want no part of that kind of drama. It just doesn't have any space in my life any longer.
Yeah, I can't blame you for that one, man.
So I just wanted
a lot to deal with.
Yeah, so I wanted to say that. So, Rocc, just for those that are maybe tuning in that have no idea what this Leagues Cup drama is all about, or this Leagues Cup boycott, just catch us up. It's all the supporter groups pretty much in alliance here when it comes to boycotting Leagues Cup matches because they see it as a money grab and something that that the team has prioritized over the U.S. Open Cup, which is a far more historic. You were
correct the first time. I'm going to go back and recorrect your recorrection there because it's not the team that they're boycotting, in my opinion. I think it's
the league.
Yeah, I think that needs to be pointed out. This is a boycott of the league because of league decisions. That and we know that because Diego Gigliani and St. Louis City as a whole have reached out and had discussions with the supporters groups about the best way for City to advocate to the league that they want to be part of the U.S. Open Cup, considering the incredible importance it has to the history of St. Louis soccer. The bottom line is that the league, MLS, created the Leagues Cup with Liga MX as a way to boost popularity, take advantage of the fact that there are a lot of Liga MX fans in the United States, and get their eyes on games between MLS teams and Liga MX teams. In a vacuum, there's nothing wrong with the Leagues Cup. It's a good idea, and it makes a lot of sense in a lot of ways when you consider just the way that the Mexican and American cultures buttress up against each other and have for so long. I think it makes a lot of sense, but the reason why the boycott has been created is simply because the MLS decided this year that not every team's first team would play, and some teams would be completely out of the U.S. Open Cup because of schedule congestion. That schedule congestion was created by the Leagues Cup. And so instead of doing some very simple things, which is leaving the decision up to the teams, creating more MLS rules that allow for expanded rosters during certain non-league competitions. So therefore, instead of saying, well, you have to play your MLS Next 2 squad, you tell teams, well, you can play however many players you want, and it doesn't count for loans or appearances and all that stuff that you have to do with the short-term loan system. So instead of taking those very reasonable steps, which don't negate or go against any kind of history or tradition except for your own weird rules that you've arbitrarily put in over the last 20 years. So instead of doing that and violating this a dumb rule book that's only been around for 30 years, you went back and you said, no, we'll just completely cut out the most historic soccer competition in American history. And rightfully, fans said, well, this is a dumb decision, because that's the only way you can describe this. I'm not saying leagues can't, because there's some people who are just using the phrase, well, this is a money grab. I mean, we can't blame teams, we can't blame leagues and or teams for that matter for trying to make more money. They are businesses. But the problem is that there's too often where sports leagues and sports teams want to make profits like a business, but they want you to patronize them like they're sports. And that's the issue here is you can't lean on people's fandom to make all your money, and lean on their nostalgia and lean on their connection to the history of the sport to make all your money. And then on the other side, be like, well, we're just a business. We just got to make money. We don't have to worry about history, or we don't got to prioritize anything else. When that's how you make your profits, you do have to care about it, or you're just being two-faced, which is a problem a lot of leagues have in America nowadays. And this was the MLS, unfortunately, stepping into that pond of taking profits and prioritizing them over the history. And again, I'm not saying you can't prioritize profits, but it was a dumb way they did it, and they hamstrung themselves in a way that was ignorant and short-sighted. And this is the one way fans can voice their opinion. And I understand there are people out there who say, I don't like that we're boycotting the team's games, but this is the only way fans can actually make an impact, is they speak with their wallets. And that's why the boycott's a good thing, and that's why I hope the boycott works.
Yeah, I mean, you're definitely speaking with your wallet. Now, if you saw the attendance that I saw, and I think it's an accurate number, there was still a lot of people at Cedi Park for this match. Yeah, there's still a lot of people, but it was a very, very different atmosphere without the supporter section filled with people and flags and all that kind of stuff.
The drums were a big absence, and I was actually sitting in the crowd for this game instead of up in the press box, and there were people around me and I noticed multiple comments about how the lack of the consistency around the chants, because there were some chants, but they weren't at the pace and the level that they are usually, and the lack of drums was a very noticeable atmosphere difference from the past games.
Yeah, for sure. So I do think it has effect. I think they are getting their desired intention across, which is great. And you know, just going back to the whole thing, the league itself, you know, like you said, I'm with you. Like, you know, money grab is always like a bad word, and I can understand how that always goes there. But these are businesses, and they got to sustain and figure it out. Baseball has been changing rules, you know, every 6 months to try to keep up with slumping ticket sales and this and that. So I mean, this is like a pretty normal thing as far as humans go. Things change. Can't always expect it to stay the same. The weird thing is, dude, this comes right on the back of what, 2021 or 2022's European Super League. Do you remember the European Super League debacle?
Yeah.
And it's like
that's not dead, by the way. That's not dead. They're gonna keep trying to do that every like 2 or 3 years. It's gonna spike. Everyone's gonna hate it. It's gonna calm down. They're gonna bring it back up, and they're gonna keep doing that for the next 20 years until they finally break through.
Yeah, it's just wild that it came this quickly after that whole debacle. And I don't want to get into too much to the weeds of the European Super League, but it's very similar, where they just basically created a league somewhat at the expense of the FA Cup and some of the other historic individual countries, not super leagues, but, you know, historic competitions, and made this Super League of what, like 3 English teams and 4 Italian teams.
Yeah, I don't remember exactly what it was. Yeah, obviously the Spanish and French giants would have been in there too.
Yeah, and it was just a disaster because fans lost their mind. I mean,
and
you want to see
rightfully so.
You want to see a collective tantrum.
It's the dumbest thing I've ever seen.
Across the planet was the European Super League controversy, and that's why this was kind of wild and fresh on the mind. That like, God, now we're just doing the North American version to an extent. So, yeah, sour note. Again, we're with the supporter groups as far as their decision to sit out these Leagues Cup matches. I don't know about the podcasts and all the team centric media outlets not covering the team during it, but hey, to each their own, and we support everybody. Peace and love, and soccer balls. So let's talk about the soccer balls that happened on Saturday. I missed the match. It wasn't on Apple TV, you know, because it's not an MLS broadcast, and I was on stage in San Diego. So, Rocc, tell me your whole feeling, I mean, like you said, you were at the match. You did not have the drums. You did not have the typical chance of the atmosphere. It's still a packed stadium, though. 18,000 ain't no slouch number. How did the match feel? We got some new players. There's a new excitement, a little bit of a shot of adrenaline prior to the match just to see what happens. Now, of course, with all of these new players coming in and this new talent, we're going to see fewer minutes from the John Kleins and from the guys that were kind of asked to step up, and we're filling gaps here. So how did it feel? How did it look? How did you enjoy the match?
Well, I will say, first off, right off the bat, go ahead and check out Tom Timmerman's piece in STL today. I think it might have hit yesterday after Cedi's availability, because he had a great a chunk where he interviewed John Klein and talked to him about how naturally his role is going to have to, he's going to have to take a step back because of all the new additions. Also, when you look at guys like Rasmus Alm, João Klaus are going to be coming back, so that, again, that adds more depth, pushes you a little bit deeper in. So really, and his attitude's obviously fantastic. But, I mean, the atmosphere was different, but getting 2 goals and getting a win at City Park with what felt like, the first time in a very long time, obviously, of the Colorado game, which just feels fake, considering not Colorado, my apologies. I'm blanking on the terrible team, San Jose, my apologies. The San Jose game, where they won that game, but it just felt like it didn't matter because they walked over the worst team, and the next 2 games went horribly for them. So that feels like it didn't happen. So getting a win like that felt a little bit different, and obviously the fact that it's Cedric Toyshirt getting his first goal for St. Louis City, and then it's Marcel Hartel getting his first goal for St. Louis City in his debut. Finishing from the penalty spot, he had a little conversation with Edward Leuven and was very happy that Edward Leuven let him take the penalty and that he buried it. And I think those guys brought you exactly what you expected. Marcel Hartel was working out on the left side of the attacking 3. When our expectation was kind of that he was going to be that natural 10 in the middle. But Cedric Toyshirt is more of a 9.5, kind of what Jonathan Hackworth referred to him as. So more of a 9.5 than a true 9. So he's now playing kind of in the hole behind the striker. So that's changed the formation a little bit. I liked what we saw from both Toyshirt and Hartel. Again, when they score, how can you not like it? But the one that jumped out to me the most had to be the addition that we've talked about the least here, Moon, because it happened only right after the window opened, and that's the loan with an option to buy for the former St. Louis Billiken, Simon Becher. And he was really the guy who jumped out the most to me, because Hartel and Toyshirt, you expect a lot. So when they give you what you want, it's not as surprising. It's nice to see, but it's not as surprising. Becher, I didn't really know what to expect from him, because he had a really strong run right out of the gate to open his MLS career up with Vancouver. And then he stagnated a little bit. Then he goes to Denmark. He obviously doesn't click that well in his time in Denmark. By the way, St. Louis STL Today did a podcast. They had Becher on. I haven't got a chance to listen to it. He talks about his time in Denmark. I'm fascinated to hear exactly what his takeaways are from there, and if we get a little bit more insight into his playing time, how his comfortability level there. I'm excited to go back and listen to that interview with Becher, because he jumped out, Moon. His press was unbelievable, and John Hackworth has talked a lot about how that first goal was a bad press that turned into a really good press, and I think Becher was consistently in it every single time. That was one of the best pressing games we've seen from a guy playing this true striker position since João Klaus got hurt, and really from any player not named João Klaus in the last year and a half. That was a very impressive performance from him. I love what we're seeing from the new guys.
That is such a big deal, too, man, because what have we talked about? The biggest difference that we've seen, minus the points and lack of goals from this season to last season, is we just don't seem like a dangerous team. We don't seem like a scary team. And anything can change in a week's time. And like you said, the press, you put what it takes to beat a team that's better than you is you got to come out and you got to play a little bit of head games, and part of that is just your hustle. How much are you willing to seem dangerous to make them feel that they're up against somebody that's dangerous, whether it's an individual or a pairing or the entire team? And that press matters, an intelligent, solid, and consistent press that we've been missing since last year. And I've been trying to figure out, is it particular players like Stroud and Joachini and some of the folks that aren't there anymore? Is that what we're missing, or is it just a collective spirit of it? I think it's a solid combination of all of it now that we've watched it for an entire season. But, again, that's what it takes to beat teams that are better than you. I would not say Dallas is a better team than us, although they're 2 spots ahead of us in the MLS standings. Currently, they're 11th. They have 8 wins. We have 4. The rest of the stats are not too very different. They've just won 4 more games than we have in the MLS competition. So, this is a team that we should have beat, and having a nice extra spark and some new talent out there, I think 2-1 is probably what I would have hoped for, although maybe not have expected with the poor quality of play that we've seen on the field. But this is a good thing, all things positive. I don't want to turn negative in any sense, and I'm just happy to have somebody that's there to make the opponent think, hey, these guys are dangerous.
And I think, and the thing to look at is that was them pulling dangerous moments off across players who haven't played together for very long. I mean, Cedi Toyshirt's been here for very long, but he hasn't actually got to play with Hartel and Becher for very long. Those guys obviously came right when the window was opening. Hartel because of the actual travel issues, but Becher because it didn't get completed until after the window actually opened. But those guys were all playing together very well, and I know Coach Hackworth mentioned yesterday in the availability, he talked about how those guys were just, their timing is a little bit off because, they're not used to each other yet. So if you get another week of training, it's completely reasonable, but another week of training and all of a sudden the press gets tighter, the ability to read when a guy is going to make a certain move on the press, and so then you're making the correct move to fill the space where the ball's going to be to get those steals that we always talk about being a dangerous team. Those things come with familiarity and being able to read the player you're with, and that's only going to get even better. And so to see them creating some of the bad passes that they were creating and the success of the press we saw from the top, that was so intriguing. And while the defense still had the issues that are always going to make you want to pull your hair out, Moon, they were not as problematic. The issues weren't as bad when they did screw up, and they cleaned things up. They made a lot of mistakes in the first 20 minutes that they didn't make in the last 20 minutes, and that's been the big difference in a lot of these games, is that they were making the same mistake in minute 12 and getting away with it, but then they would inevitably get scored on making that mistake in minute 62, 72, and 82. And the difference now is that they made the mistake in the 12th minute, they didn't get scored on, and then they were able to actually cover that mistake up, and it didn't happen as often for the next 60 minutes. And that's why, despite the game being pretty close, they were able to edge out a 2-1 win.
Yeah, and I want to compare to baseball just a little bit, and I've been meaning to do this for the past couple weeks because my mother's not a soccer fan other than when she was watching her son play. She's a baseball fan. She's 80-something years old, and she was braving the 98-degree heat yesterday at the Cards game. And the biggest difference between the Cardinals having an awful first season and now they're coming on and they're doing great is when a soccer team is having the season like our team has had this season. The difference between last year and this year, opponents coming in, is opponents were a bit fearful, and they had an uphill battle, even if just mental, last year when they come up against a team that's setting records and top of the West and all these different things. And why I'm bringing this up is because one player coming in is not necessarily going to make all the difference, quote, all the difference. But what we've been talking about and what I've been preaching is one player can change the complexion of a team, and the team can make a huge difference. And something that we've been up against in this season is the first half has been so lackluster that teams have come in. You can see it in their body language before the first whistle. They're excited to see what mistakes are St. Louis going to make this time that we can then just take advantage of in the second half. Just like you mentioned, mistakes made in the 8th minute, in the 11th minute, in the 12th minute. Oh, let's just hammer that. Hammer them on that, whereas they were a bit more on the back foot last season. So this season, people are coming in much, much more confident. And what we're lacking, what we've been looking for, is that talisman, that one guy that's going to come in, maybe 2 guys that's going to come in, and inspire. Just when they get the ball, there's a confidence, there's an air, there's a demand to deliver for that player who's doing things. And typically, I know the name that everybody's thinking is Leuven. Leuven has been that guy for this team. But remember, we were missing him for a month and a half there. And that made a big impact. Just him not being there, never mind any stats that he could have put up or would have put up, just not having that confidence, that talisman there, really hurt us. And now it's an uphill climb when we're coming into opponents that are looking to take advantage of things that they think are pretty inevitable mistakes coming from St. Louis City SC. So hopefully this is the turnaround. This is the turnaround, and we can have 1 or 2 guys out there that even if somebody's injured, and I know everybody's talking about, what, all the injuries. Even if somebody's injured, somebody's going to be out there at all times that is inspiring a better collective response from the team to really change things. Because I'm looking at this, and don't forget, Messi came in last year and everybody's like, oh, he's going to single-handedly save this team. And, of course, on paper, they're like, well, when he came in, Miami was last. And guess who's top of the East right now? Miami, destroying everybody. But it's not Messi that's doing it. It's Messi plus this guy, plus this guy, plus this guy. Don't forget they brought in 3 or 4 of the most best international talents of the last 20 years. So, again, it's not one of these guys that's going to necessarily save us. It may be just the confidence and the press that you're talking about that really just changes ever so slightly everybody's play. Fewer mistakes are made, and teams can finally kind of come in thinking that that we're going to be a real challenge. And the head game it's a big thing. It's hard to talk about here. It's hard to quantify, if you will, but like it is a real thing when you're about to start a soccer match, because anything can happen in 90 minutes. That's why it's the beautiful game.
Absolutely. Some quick notes, by the way. Matt Baker did a great job from Flyover Footy of reporting some of the injury news from training yesterday. No new injuries, which was a good news. The updates, Alm and Klaus are still training outside, but they're separate from the team. Joachim Nielsen is absent. He's about a week behind Klaus and Alm per John Hackworth. So no Klaus and Alm right now. Obviously, you keep on advancing in the Leagues Cup, and that'll give you a chance to give them actual real game time to ramp up for the return of MLS games. By the way, we opened the show with it, and we'll close the show with it now, which was FC Dallas lost on Wednesday night to Juarez, which means that St. Louis City is going to be moving on into the round of 32 for the Leagues Cup, just like that, because it's only 3 people in a group, and they beat Dallas, and now Dallas is 0-2, and they're 1-0. They will be playing FC Juarez this weekend on Sunday, and it looks like they'll be playing next week on the 8th or the 9th of August at City Park for their round of 32 game. I'm excited to see, obviously, the game on Sunday, Moon, just because, again, we know what we're going to see, which is we're going to see more minutes from new players. And anytime that's happening, it's exciting. We were just talking about it. What does the press look like? Can the defense close the holes against a team that they've never seen before in FC Juarez? And, can the press continue to get tighter? And can that familiarity and tightness in the press also start showing more in the offense? Hartel, Cedi, and Becher. Is there going to be more cohesion with those guys understanding when the other guy's going to be making their run? I'm excited to see how that's improving, because we know right now it's not at 100%, and I'm fascinated to see what it looks like at 60% and then potentially what it looks like at 100%.
Yeah, I'm with you, man. I back everything that you said. And I misspoke earlier. It is on Apple TV MLS Season Pass. So if you have Season Pass, the Leagues Cup matches are on there. This Juarez match will happen 8 p.m. Sunday night. It is a City Park home match. So if you're going, great. If you're boycotting, also great. Whatever you wish, we back we back you, but we're going to continue to cover the team, and that's what we're doing, because a few people made their debut and their mark here in these matches, and it's gonna matter. It's gonna matter when the MLS season kicks back up. The regular season match continues for us on the 24th of August against Portland in Portland. So that's gonna be a big one. Hitting the runway again here as far as the MLS, and I would definitely like to see it with some of these players getting points, getting assists, getting a lot of touches in. I'm looking forward to this match to really see what the new team, because I kind of feel like this is a 3.0, if you will, for St. Louis City SC. Rocc, you got anything else?
Just 2 other things. Manuel Veth earlier this week is reporting that St. Louis City is close to making another move. This time, and surprise, it's a defender who's currently playing in the second Bundesliga. So Jonas Horn is the report right now. He's played center back this past year for FC Nuremberg, but before that, the majority of his career, he's been a left back. So it looks like we're going to be getting more defensive reinforcements from Lutz Pfannenstiel's favorite stomping grounds. The interesting thing here is, obviously, does this mean we see more of a back 5 with Jay Reed playing that left center back, and now Jonas Horn playing left back? because Giannis Horns played a lot of left back and obviously just played a season of center back, does we see him playing that spot? I think he's much better when you look at his statistical profile, and we'll go over this in depth once this deal becomes final. He makes a lot more sense as a left back because his heading and his tackling numbers are not what you want to see from a center back, but it does look like we're going to be getting more moves in the summer window from Lutz Pfannenstiel. And also one other thing that I saw from Manuel Veth yesterday, I love Moon Still Dancing.
I'm still dancing, dude. More defenders. More defenders. I want some scary 999 German-speaking, yelling, just scary defenders.
He's kind of a fullback who doesn't head the ball very well. So I don't know how scary he really is. The other thing though is Manuel Veth also was tweeting out yesterday that Nick Marcanic, who's down in the USL, has links potentially to Europe. So I know people wanted to get the goal-scoring Marcanic brother here to join St. Louis City, but he might just completely jump the MLS entirely and go USL to MLS. I saw that earlier today, and I just want to throw it in there because it's a fascinating story that we haven't really got to dive in on, and I kind of hope that happens because a player making the jump from the USL to Europe, not unheard of, is always a fascinating look when you talk about the USA pyramid going forward. And I just want to throw that out.
Yeah, that's exciting. What league in particular, or do we know yet?
No, I don't know 100%. I saw them just talking about how they've really impressed. He's really impressed people. Obviously, the goal scoring numbers are ridiculous. But he was on the Howlers podcast, and they talked about potentially him having links to Europe. I imagine it would be a second division team in Europe looking for some goal scoring punch, from a second division, a second division league in America. So probably not the biggest name, probably not a team we've heard of or own many kits for. But anyhow, anytime you're getting looks like that, and again, anytime the USA pyramid is producing players to other leagues outside of the MLS, I think that needs to be highlighted because a lack of pro-rel has always been dumb, and so anytime that the lower leagues can actually get some pub when they certainly deserve it, and the MLS seemingly tries to stop it from happening, I'm good with it happening. It makes me happy. I'm very anti-MLS right now, if you can't tell.
Well, very cool, and good luck to him.
Absolutely.
If you got nothing else, again, thanks to everybody for supporting Soccer 101, our podcast, and, of course, our respective stations and shows, 101 ESPN and The Point with the Rizzuto Show. Rocc, I appreciate you, man. Thank you, as always. Another fun episode in the books, and we will see you next week after this weekend's match. Hopefully we have nothing but great news. Dude,
I think we got to do it again.
I was just going to say.
We got to do it again. Yeah, no, we got to do it again.
We didn't scream goal last week, and things went okay, so let's just scream defend!